Good morning, everyone. Walter Parks back with you, St. Louis, Missouri. Hymns and hollers. Let's see what we can do this morning. That's Reverend Cl Moore from Houston, Texas, I believe. Interesting record of sermons, and I'm really taken to buying sermons. I was in a record store yesterday in St. Louis, Vintage Vinyl. I love the place. It's one of those old kind of airplane hangar type size buildings. It's been converted into a record store. I had special ordered a disc called "Fell in Love with a Prostitute," and the record store owner was so proud of catering to my peculiarities that he had a picture done just to exemplify the eccentricities of his clientele. So I Was Married to a Prostitute is a sermon by Reverend Williams, I believe, and I'm loving the sermons. And the gentleman who's the proprietor of the record store asked me, "Where else do you want to shop in the store?" I said, "All I care about is the gospel section in the sermons." So needless to say, I had the place, that section all to myself, while everybody else is in the blues and the R&B and the hip-hop section. But we'll talk about Reverend Cl Moore in just a bit. He's got an interesting sermon. There's so many things I want to kind of go into, but right now I think I'm just going to start with an old hymn, and I haven't done this in a while, and let's see what happens. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. I was blind, but people now I see. Through many dangers, toils and snares, I've already come. 'Twas grace that brought me safely now. but now I'm found. I was blind, but now I see. Thought about singing the third verse, and I thought it was more important to reiterate. I haven't done that one in a while, as you might have noticed. But I do a very, very fine version of it, and I'm super proud of on my new record, Walter Parks and the Unlawful Assembly. I play it on the electric guitar, the old 175 from 1953. Kristen's with us, James Nave's with us, so we've got people from South Carolina and people from tuning in from New Mexico. That's kind of cool. Got some people tuning in from St. Louis. I need more listeners. I don't need more listeners. I'd like to have more listeners. I'm, like so many things in life, I'm asking myself, why do I do this? But I do it for Thurston. He's just coming to the screen right now, and he's come to tell me about his needs. And, a man gets used to, a man and a woman really, we all get used to just catering to the needs of our life and our proclivities, our wants, and sometimes it's really hard to separate what we really want from what we need, what we want from what we need. Now, Thurston just tells us about what he needs. I don't think he comes to me to say, look, scratch my ears. He needs some kind of comfort right now. Maybe needs to go out, but I'm not gonna heed his call. Let's read from the book if we can this morning. I think it's really important to read from the book every now and then on a Sunday morning. But first, let me tell you what the book is. Today, the book that I've chosen for today's scripture is copywritten and published in 1924. This is the Book of Etiquette. Can y'all see that? The book. Oh, let's get that right. There we go. There you can see it. So I'm holding up an old hardbound book. It has this kind of Art Deco or looking embossment on it and framing, and I just love the aesthetics of this era. It is one of those books that if you try to repair, it will cost far more than the book is or ever was worth to repair it. So I thought we would read something that I didn't think about this at all. I just turned to this page, and it seemed like it would be right for today on a Sunday morning. The Danger of Intolerance, Introduction to Etiquette, page 5, everyone. You can turn in your scriptures. There is no room for intolerance in the social world. To be honored, respected, one must have a certain friendliness of spirit. Now, these are good things. So far, so good. The gentleman, the lady treats everyone. The gentleman, the lady treats everyone. I think what they're saying is the gentleman and the lady. The gentleman, the lady treats everyone, from the lowest beggar to the most distinguished personage with consideration. Fantastic message for Sunday morning. I'm going to keep going. It is only the man who is unpretentious, who is always eager to please, who is as courteous and considerate in manner to his inferiors as to his equals, that fully deserves the name of gentleman. Let's read that again, shall we? Once again, page 5 in the introduction to etiquette. It is only the man who is unpretentious, who is always eager to please, who is as courteous and considerate in manner to his inferiors as to his equals, that fully deserves the name of gentleman. The author recently chanced to witness an amusing incident which might be of value to repeat here. It shows forcibly how important the little things are and how they reveal to the gaze of the world the true story of our actual worth. Now, once again, I'm on the fly here. This could be god-awful stuff that doesn't apply to the modern world and stuff that we don't want getting out to the world. But I am just taking a chance here to see how much we've changed, if we've changed at all, or maybe we need to go back and adopt some of these principles. Here we go. Again, an elderly man who showed quite obviously by his lordly and self-satisfied manner that he was accustomed to travel about in his own car was on one occasion forced to ride home in the subway. God forbid. It was rush hour, and thousands of tired men and women were in a hurry to get home. The man impatiently waited his turn on a long line at the ticket office, constantly grumbling and making it disagreeable for those about him. Sounds like me. When he finally did reach the window, he offered a $10 bill in payment for a 1 5-cent ticket and deliberately remained at the window, counting and recounting his change, when the people behind him anxiously awaited their turn. When at last he did move away, he had half a smile, half a frown of smug and malicious satisfaction on his face, which, interpreted to the people he had kept waiting, said that he now felt repaid for having to travel in the same train with them. This man, in spite of his self-satisfied manner and well-tailored suit, was very far from being a gentleman. The shabby young man behind him, who also offered a bill in payment for his ticket, but quickly stepped to one side to count his change and smiled cheerfully at the man behind him, was infinitely more of a gentleman than the one who maliciously and with evident keen enjoyment kept the long line waiting. The true worth of a gentleman is revealed not in his fashionable clothes or haughty demeanor, but in his regard for the rights of others. It is the little kindnesses that count, and the instinctive recognition of the rights of others. As England's inimitable J.M. Barrie has so aptly remarked, this is the final sentence, quote, "Those who bring sunshine to the lives of others cannot keep it from themselves." So that was a good thing to read here, page 5 through 7 in the Book of Etiquette. You guys can put down your copy now if you wouldn't mind. And let's go to a song. I will say that I often come close to being that man who is so disgruntled to be in the subway. It's not that I'm in that instant. One of the things I can't stand, and this happened to me recently, was I hate waiting in a long line of traffic, and it's really, really a problem here in the Midwest, because people get in a long line of traffic at the very end of the line. It's just like from my hometown in Jacksonville, Florida. Now in New York City, we do this thing. I know it's a phenomenon that people it hasn't made it to the Midwest yet. It's called merging, to where everybody just kind of cooperates and waits to the last possible moment before they maintain the singular aspect of traffic, which everybody knows is eventual. And they just do this thing called alternate merging. But it has been pointed out to me that some of the roads are not even set up for that, because there will not be right where you're supposed to merge is there's also another offshoot of the road, and even the highway planners don't understand this concept of alternate merging. And the thing about alternate merging is that there's no stress to it. When people go to New York City, and if they're not used to driving in New York, they say, "Oh my God, it's so stressful to be there." It's really not. if you understand the rules of stewardship and just this concept of alternate merging, it's automatic. The rules are already in place. You let the guy on your left go or whatever. If somebody's in front of you, let him go, and you only let one person go, and the next person will let you in and won't try to sneak in front of that person that you let in. So it all just kind of works. And the thing about driving in New York that I really love is that if there is traffic, if there is road sclerosis, as I call it, you can be assured that there's absolutely nothing you can do to circumvent the situation, because New Yorkers will try to figure out how to solve a problem by driving on alternate streets or doing whatever they have to do to not wait. And I value my time. I refuse to get at the end of the line just merely because it seems like the right thing and respectful thing to do to others or do for others. I believe in alternate merging, and the thing is, maybe I'm that disgruntled man, but I also feel like my time is valuable, and I also feel like if somebody's not paying attention and they're driving and trying to look at their cell phone and I sneak in front of them, what harm has it done? They're still just as slow and behind the eight ball as they ever were, and I'm in front of them now, and they didn't make me waste my time. My point is, this concept of respect for others seems to be, in that sense, when everybody gets in a long line, it only seems to work one way. I never feel like people have respect for me. They're gonna make me wait and cause me to get to my destination a lot longer because of this sense of protocol. But the respect, I guess I'm going on a rant here, but this concept of respect for others has to be, but it has to work both ways. And I suggest that people in my hometown in Jacksonville and where I live now in St. Louis discover this concept of alternate merging, because it is truly courteous to everybody. This concept that you get in a long line and wait, and that's the way you show respect for others, is just, it's just confusing to me, because it shows no respect for anybody's time. Anyway, I'll get out of this. Welcome, I'm Walter Parks. This is Sunday morning, and if there's anybody still listening after this rant, let's play a song. Here's a song about respect that I love. It's my version of a Mavis Staples song, and Margot, I think one of my distortion just kind of went out. Of course, there's a little bit of hair left in there. Woo! Well, silence began to shout. All the help in and all locked out. Keep on your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. Silence and bound in jail. Don't have money for the go to heaven bail. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on, hold on, hold on. Keep your eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes on the prize. Keep your eyes on the prize. Hold on. That's a modernization of an old biblical, I think a parable or a psalm or something like that. I should research these things. The concept is, it's in keeping with the bit about the gentleman in the subway and him not making a show of himself in that sense. Don't be so proud of your accomplishments and look backwards and say, here's what I did, and spend so much time in retrospect, sort of tallying up your achievements and your merits and so on, because what's going to happen is if you're plowing in the field, that plow's going to be all crooked if you're spending so much time looking back and saying, look how straight I was, look at the good job I did. Just keep your hands, keep your eyes, originally it was keep your hands on the plow. I think that's the biblical part of the biblical manifestation of this story. Now, in the civil rights era, they changed it around a little bit. I think even Pete Seeger might have had something to do with it, and Mavis Staples picked it up, and she said, "No, this is about freedom too. Let's keep our eyes on the prize." And so it became a civil rights song, but it originally came from a Christian biblical song of keeping your hands on the plow. And this might turn into another rant as well, and I feel there's a need to sometimes I get so dark, and I go through these sort of tumbles into doubt of why am I doing this? Why do I set all this stuff up on Sunday morning? Why don't I just sleep in, for instance? Or why am I writing new music? And the answer is always provided to me when I kind of force myself into it, first of all. So I'm always reminded once I get the guitar back in my hand and that kind of thing, or once I play for an audience. But also nothing kind of readjusts me and corrects me, like just spending a little time and saying, here's where I've come. Here's the things that I've done. And so I think it's constructive. I think the point of that parable is that, we don't want to boast too much or spend too much time patting ourselves on the back of saying, this was great work, this is fantastic work, and it's an issue of boasting or just recognizing. I think recognizing and saying, here's where I've come, here's what I've accomplished, is very healthy. Turning backwards and looking at that picture on the wall and saying, that was the Vault d'Or in Jersey City, and this is amazing. I'm gonna keep telling the press about how much we did there, and just not moving on and figuring out new things to do. Speaking of that, Margot and I, inspired by, here's the point. We're inspired by the past. We're inspired by our work in the Vault Allure. Are you inspired by your writing that you did? It could have been in 6th grade. Are you inspired by what you've accomplished? We are so inspired by what we were able to accomplish with the help of the volunteers in Jersey City, and especially Kern Weissman, that when Margot and I hit the ground here in St. Louis, it was our instinct, our reflex to start a concert series. The first one we did was Baroque music, and I think it's all fashioned and tailored around the tree imagery because we set up our stage at the foot of a tree. So I think this year we're going to have a bur oak, which is the name of the oak tree, the type of oak tree. I think we're going to call it Bur Oak Roots. And we've gotten the city's blessing to go around again, but we do need some financial help because we're not going to put up all the money this year. And once again, one of the things that frustrates me so much about the arts is that I spend, to do it right, you got to spend half your time trying to raise money, you know? And our good friend Brian Benninghove is so passionate about that, and he's darn good at it with the help of his board members with the Riverview Jazz Organization in Jersey City, which I'm going to make the announcement now that we're involved in that again this year, and I'm excited to be traveling late May back to our old hood, and so I'm certainly going to be playing a gig at the Fox and Crow while I'm there with Rob Curto. Is that going to be May 15th? I think. No. It's the last Thursday of May. So put that on your calendars if you live in Jersey City. Rob Curto. And the Jazz Festival is going to be June 4th and 5th in downtown Jersey City. Margot will be helping with that. And so put that on your calendars. Let's play a little bit more music. Meaning me and my ego and you guys, because I can see from your comments that that we are together, and so y'all are helping me to get this music out today. I want to play a little bit of a Tom Waits tune. I'm kind of in the mood to get back into the bluesy stuff again, and I shouldn't be playing the electric guitar. I mean the acoustic, but it just was the easiest thing to grab this morning. But this is one that I love playing. So it's called Don't Tell Me, Margot. Way Down in the Hole. Better watch your back. I beg your pardon about the straight and narrow path. If you walk with Jesus, you save your soul. You gotta keep the devil way down, you know. And the fury at his command. You don't have to worry. Just hold on to Jesus' hand. He'll keep you safe from temptation. walk through the garden, better watch your back. I beg your pardon. Walk the street and never pass. If you walk with Jesus and save your soul, you gotta keep the devil waiting down in the hole. Well, you gotta keep the devil waiting down in the hole. Well, you gotta keep the devil waiting down in the hole. Way Down in the Hole. It's a Tom Waits song. I've never really recorded a version of that. I noticed the other day that somebody, and I don't know if it's really him, but Robert Fripp commented on my version of I Love Paris. Check it out, Walter Parks' I Love Paris. That this guy needs to get together with Tom Waits. And this guy, he was referring to me. I don't know about that, you know. I mean, I guess that's a compliment. I mean, why would Tom Waits, if I sound like Tom Waits, why would he want to be with somebody who sounds like him or sings like him? I mean, I certainly share and understand those aesthetics, and I'm happy that Robert Fripp was commenting if in fact that was him. But this is, I'm going to keep playing. I'm not sure what I'm going to do. I'm going to have a sip of coffee at this point. I had a couple of other records I wanted to spin, but I left them downstairs, and I just love that about we kind of rushed this morning. Maybe I'll quote from the book again and see what we've got here. No, I just said there was an album downstairs, a record album down there. But let's see here. We're talking about the social calls of men and women. I don't think we need to talk about that too much anymore. Funerals and the mourning dress, the bride's outfit. I'm looking through the today the Book of Etiquette, which is here we go. This is great. I kind of like this. Parents and children. This is nice. Let me see here. We talk about the young girl and the girl's manners and all of that sort of thing, but I don't know if there's anything in here about the gentleman, the chaperone of the young girl. These are all things that certainly do apply in the modern world. Let's just go ahead. I'm going to roll the dice, and we're going to talk. Turn to page 271 in your Book of Etiquette, if you wouldn't mind. Let the child be natural, which to me is astounding that this is in the book. I would think that they would want children to be seen and not heard or that sort of thing. But here it goes on to state, after all, the greatest charm of childhood is natural, spontaneous simplicity. Stilted, party-mannered children are bores. They are unnatural. And that which is not natural cannot be well-bred. Very, very interesting. I'm loving this. This gives me hope for America's youth. The cause of shy, bashful, and self-conscious youngsters is wrong training. There we have it. They are repressed instead of developed. Their natural tendencies are held down by constant reminders and scoldings and warnings. Instead, they should be brought out by proper encouragement, by kind, sympathetic understanding. I like this. I'm rolling the dice, and there's a payoff twice now in the good book. Some children have the idea in their extreme youth that parents are made only to forbid things, to repress them and make them do things against which their natures revolt. The bond that should exist between a parent and a child is certainly a certain understanding, friendliness. Let me start that again. The bond that should exist between parent and child is a certain understanding, friendliness, an implicit faith on the part of the child, and a wise guidance on the part of the parent. Remember that a child is like a flower. If the flower is not permitted to struggle upward towards the sun and to gather in the tiny dewdrops, it will wither and die. If the child is not allowed to develop naturally, its tastes and ideals will be warped and shallow. Teach your child to be well-mannered and polite, but do not disguise him with unnatural manners and speech. I'm not sure what happens with the young ladies. They didn't say anything about her, but that's okay. We have a whole pronoun thing that we have to deal with these days, so I don't know how. I could spend all day looking for pronouns and how to use them in this book. I have a feeling I wouldn't find that section. But this is a fantastic read. I suggest that we put down now your copy of the Book of Etiquette, and let's play a little bit more music. Let's see here. My name is Walter Parks. I have a new record. It's called The Swamp Alachian Trail. I'm quite proud of it. It's something I did with Rob Curto, and I think it might be nice to do one from that. Let me get on the end here. Anyway, the record is kind of my temporary journey into some of my Appalachian roots, given that I'm a white man of Northern European descent and proudly of a little bit of Irish and English and some Scottish heritage in there. It took me this long in my life to kind of delve into that part of what might be my history musically. And some of the stuff is really coming natural to me. And it's thanks to my colleague Rob Curto. Maybe Margot can put up a picture of that, or at least put up a link to where you can get a copy of it. The record just came out. It's an EP, and it's got 5 songs on it. And just to keep you guessing, the songs, as they're printed, the order of which they're printed on the back of the CD has nothing to do with the order that they actually made it to manufacturing. But that's another issue that I'll talk to you about after this song. I found this next tune while searching for an old-time song called Catfish. I was searching for an old banjo song, and I came upon this one. It's called Catfish John. It was a country hit in the 70s. And then Jerry Garcia and the Grateful Dead ended up playing it. And I love it. It's called, like I said, Catfish John. So I'll say it one more time. It's called Catfish John. Mama said, don't go near that river. Don't be hanging around old Catfish John. come the morning, I'd always be there, walking in his footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. Catfish John was a river hobo, living down by the water's edge. I'm so glad I got to know him. Well, I'm proud to call him my friend. Mama said, don't go near that river. Don't be hanging around on Catfish John. But come the morning, I'd always be there, walking in his footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. Born a slave in the town of Vicksburg, traded for a chestnut mare, though he never spoke in anger. I'm sure his load was hard to bear. Mama said, don't go near that river. Don't be hanging around on Catfish John. But come the morning, I'd always be there, walking in his footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. Taking you back another morning to a day so long ago, to the sweet magnolia blossom, cotton fields were white as snow. Mama said, don't go near that river. Don't be hanging around old Catfish John. But come the morning, I'd always be there, walking in his footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. It's a song about an old slave who attained his freedom, or somebody gave it to him one way or the other. But he ended up living down below a bridge, under a bridge, and the white folk would teach their children. Speaking of teaching children in the Book of Etiquette, teach their children, don't go down there. He's an old black man. You just don't know what kind of trouble you'll get into. And of course, the children disobeyed the parents and went down there and made a friend of this man, and their lives were bettered for it. I have those kinds of stories in my past, and I loved crossing the tracks, the metaphorical tracks. I still do it. You wouldn't think there are tracks to cross anymore, but there damn sure are, especially not especially getting out of the big cities, and it's a good thing to do. Thankfully, we are brought together by music, and that's one of the things that I never argue with when I'm contemplating what it is I do and the worth of what I do. I am I am happy to be engaged in a pursuit, a line of work that sort of crosses all those boundaries. And I strongly urge you, if you want to uh, if you want to help your community and do some things to kind of, if you're wondering how you can bring people together and create a little harmony in your community, throw a concert, hire some artists, and invite people on all sides of the color spectrum to come together, and make sure that the music is music that um, everybody can enjoy. And and you might be thinking, hold on a minute, you just told us that you gave a concert of Baroque music. And true, Baroque is very European in its nature, and I wouldn't necessarily expect modern day hip hop fans to really enjoy Baroque music, but um, in the big picture, we are kind of going to the other end of the spectrum, the other side of the spectrum, and featuring roots music this year. So I couldn't help it that the tree was called the bur oak tree, and that it happened to rhyme in a pun-like way with the realm of music called bur oak. There comes a time when you can't please everybody, but I tell you what, at the end of the day, it was important, I thought, in the big picture to just get rolling. And I think you have to do that. Just throw a concert in your community. I've got this idea that was thrown out to Margot the other day, maybe doing some garage concerts. Perhaps you could turn back to some of my previous episodes of me playing in the garage downstairs, and which is really my workshop. And I think it'd be a great place for a concert, because it's quite a scenic, like movie-esque sort of place, and it just kind of happened that way. I'm not sure why. Just the lighting down there is quite nice, and I think we're going to do some preview concerts of jazz or blues and that kind of thing down there. Um, let me take a second, and Kristen Barner says she loves the record. Thank you so much. Listen to it all the time in my car. James Nave is quoting from Miss Manners and says, when your young adult children bring their first loves to your house, the proper thing to do is to give each a separate bedroom and ignore the nocturnal traffic in the hallway. Ignore the nocturnal traffic. I love that. That is, well, you just gotta go through the motions. I guess that's what Miss Manners is saying, and sometimes that's all right. Um, we 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 do we do a little bit of that. Boy, they're not going. Just on the other spectrum, I think about what's going on in Ukraine, and there's so much division in our country, and comparing it to what they're having to deal with over there. I mean, we're in the midst of a city council reelection and a mayoral election here in this town, and there's squabbling across political lines. Mayoral elections, at least in this neck of the woods, are not supposed to be aligned to political parties, but you can kind of tell, where people are coming from, and what side of the political fence they're on. And it is still, there's so much, it's just almost like downright hatred in a certain way, and people writing each other off. Oh, he's a liberal, or he's a Trumper, whatever. Let's write him off and not talk to him. It's I just don't think that's very productive. And the reason I brought up Ukraine is I'm sure not everybody in Ukraine was a Zelensky fan, assuming it was he was democratically elected. I think ostensibly it was. But at this point, there's probably, I'm guessing, once again, they have bigger fish to fry. They're not going to be bickering over, yeah, I didn't put Zelensky in office. This is, I'm not going to fight or whatever. No, they're just all dealing with what they have to deal with. And in a sense, the wretched horror of war is bringing people together. In much the same way that on the positive note, music brings people together. So in peace times, I'm very, very happy to be pursuing this line of work. I feel inclined to tell you about another thing that I'm involved in down in the Okefenokee Swamp, and I don't know, Margot, if you can find. I forgot to tell you to prepare this, but there's I think the Okefenokee Experience Project is something I'm involved with, and we're trying to raise money and funds and awareness to create, to save an old building in Folkston, Georgia, so that we can have an Okefenokee museum. And a large focus of that museum is going to be on the role that black folk played in making the Okefenokee Swamp something that everybody can enjoy. Used to be, if you lived out in one of the islands and you knew how to hunt, then you would have a business out there. But otherwise, you couldn't. You could go out there, but there wasn't a way of just going out and having somebody take you out there, or maybe renting a canoe and going out and enjoying the flora and fauna. But the Okefenokee Swamp Project, is organized through Okefenokee Swamp Park and the Adventures. In the 30s and 40s, they were making all those crazy swamp movies, Swamp Girl and all this other stuff that were really sort of buffooning the swamp. They were doing gator wrestling and bear wrestling and all that horrid stuff. But that's no longer. So they're very interested in the historical aspect of things. And I got a chance to tour an old schoolhouse that has been stayed of its executions. They have a stay of the wrecking ball for another 5.5 months, and we need to raise the funds by donating to the Okefenokee Swamp Park to at least pay for the insurance of this old schoolhouse. And it's old. It's a early 1900 schoolhouse, and it's just marvelous on the inside. I did show some pictures of it a couple of weeks ago, but I don't know if Margot still has them in the file, but it's okay. Oh yeah, she put one up. Gosh, she's more thorough than I ever imagined, and I knew that. I knew that instinctively before I asked her to take my hand in marriage, and thereafter went to Brother Jimmy's in New York to celebrate her acceptance. I knew that she would be able to put those pictures up without me asking for them. But lo and behold, there's proof that the Brother Jimmy's dinner in celebration of her accepting my proposal to marriage was properly founded. Anyway, I love my wife, and please give to the Okefenokee Swamp Project, or Okefenokee Experience Project, so that we can renovate that school and put a museum there. Let me tell you a little bit more about it. A lot of people, when they think of swamp life down in those parts, they think of all the white folks who were homesteading out there, and which is fantastic. And they were very much part of the story. But at one point, there was a logging operation that came in, and they left all these old cranes and machinery and railroad tracks just out in the swamp. They just left. So FDR during the 30s, when he created the Civilian Conservation Corps and the Works Project, I can't remember what the name of it was. I want to say WPA, but whenever he started that and just waved a wand and created a bunch of jobs, they down there they hired tons of black folk to um, essentially remove all that material, the carnage from uh, shaving the Okefenokee bear of 700-year-old cypress trees. So because all of that equipment was moved out of there by hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of black folk who were employed by the CCC, we are all able to enjoy it. But my point is that in the modern times, nobody has thought about the role that these folks had out there. And you could say, well, they were employed. What's the big deal? You know, what's the big deal? They were just doing a job. Why make a big celebration out of it? Well, Andrew Carnegie was employed. He just employed himself. He came up with these ideas, all these barons and so on. Does the fact that you make money invalidate your contribution? That's one of the things I can't stand about modern liberal ideology. There's some kind of a negative. I mean, I'm sounding like I'm a Trumper or something. I'm not really, but I think we just all got to be realistic. It's okay to make money, and artists are so. There's a knee-jerk reaction against making money in the arts. I mean, not universally, but there's so many aspects of the pursuit of the arts that we don't feel we should be compensated for. And a lot of those aspects are the upfront cost of the research of a song, of the time that it takes to rehearse it, not just the performance of it. I've actually had people tell me, well, you're playing for 3 hours. I mean, and you're up there having fun. Isn't that enough? And I don't even try to explain myself to those folks anymore. But I'm just saying it's a mentality. And is the measure of a good, is the measure of the reason for a healthy paycheck for something, is that proportionate to the misery that you have to endure to do it? If that's the case, the guys out there who removed all that metal from the swamp should be as wealthy as Andrew Carnegie. So none of it makes sense. I just wish the arts could be more properly compensated, but I don't blame the average Joe for that. I blame the artists. We have to ask for it. And so anyway, who's online? We've got Nixaya, Dory Rogers. Good, Dory. Always good to see you. I hear you have an amp for sale, and I will take a look at that today after pancakes. I'm gonna play one more song. I've been a little ranty today. I've been on the road for the last 2 weeks, and quite frankly, I came back to a bunch of house chores, and I just haven't been with my guitar much this week, and so I'm just kind of coming what may, so to speak. I was hoping to play more records, but I left my record collection downstairs, and let's not go into there. Don't worry about it, Margot. I'm going to end with a song here, and I'm just not sure yet what it's going to be. I want to play something up tempo, but let me retune. I love playing this next song. It's just one of those mornings. Now I can't get my jack out of the guitar. What the heck? Okay. you're going to see my studio. And if those of you are in the modern world, as opposed to me, you're going to laugh at some of my old gear. So go ahead and ready on the count of three. 1, 2, 3, laugh. All right, you saw the Tascam recording decks back there, which were very popular in 1995. But I don't care, they sound good, and that is what I recorded the Swamp Alachian Trail on, those old decks right down there. And it's cumbersome. It is very much like recording to tape. It is tape, it's just digital tape. Editing is virtually impossible, and you have to do what they call destructive recording on it, and meaning that if you think you can improve a track or a performance, you have to make the decision to erase over the one that you've just done. So it kind of challenges your musicality in a way that I like. Well, I'm not going to get the tune either. The battery just died on the tuner, but that's okay. Let's try another one. See if that battery will die. Oh my gosh, thank you, Jesus. This is an old banjo tune that is the song Catfish I was looking for. I saw one little thing I want to tell you about. I saw Bruce Molsky the other night at the Focal Point in St. Louis. Bruce Molsky is a gentleman that I never had heard of Bruce. I never knew Bruce, and it turns out he's a connoisseur and a master of old time music, fiddle music, banjo music, and acoustic guitar. He's got a new record. I don't have it here because it's also downstairs. And it's a fantastic solo guitar record, acoustic. Anyway, I'm going to be playing with Bruce in August. Mark your calendars at the Tonderfest in Denmark. And I'll also be playing with Guy Davis. As a trio, we're called Gumbo, Grits, and Gravy. And looking really forward to that. We had a rehearsal the other day in upstate New York, and came up with some cool things to do. We're going to do some of my swamp versions. So Guy Davis on kind of blues guitar and harmonica. Bruce Molsky on fiddle, playing over some of this Appalachian type music that I'm doing, the swamp stuff. And man, I did some hollers, and he played fiddle under those hollers. And Guy was playing harmonica, wailing on harmonica. Woo! I can't wait. I just love to take that down to Jacksonville in Florida, where I'm from, and show you all some of that stuff. I also have a new video that came out this last week. It's a song called, very popular song called Across the Universe. And it's my solo guitar version of that. I'm proud of it. It might not sound like that complicated, but it took me 3 weeks to do, and I would love it if you could just listen to it, because it's darn good, I think. What's that, Margot? Oh yeah, she's urging folks to subscribe to my YouTube channel if you could. We're almost up to the point to where YouTube will, I don't know, there's some benefits that we get from getting a certain amount of subscribers, but maybe they just put an icon up or something. That catfish going upstream, about what about a gill for the creek. Caught that catfish by the snout, and I turned that catfish inside out my meat. Banjo Sam, you want to go to court and tell you where to go, way to country, way below. When you get there, the folks ain't home and the girls are mad and her hair ain't gonna mind me. Banjo Sam. Jaybird sitting on a hickory limb, looked at me in the eye, picked up a rock and hit him on the chin and said, by golly, don't do that again by me. Banjo Sam. Money. Banjo Sam. Banjo Sam. Banjo Sam. Well, I enjoyed playing today, but I wasn't at my best, and that's what that's why Jesus created recordings. So if you want to hear a near flawless version, pick up the Swamp Alachian Trail with myself and Rob Curto. Recorded on right here in this room and mixed at Kaleidoscope Studios in Jersey City or Union City. I'm coming back to the New York area and going to be playing dates in the Northeast. I'll be playing a date in 2 dates in Philly. Be playing one up in Boston, in Somerville, at the Burren on a Tuesday or Wednesday night. I can't remember. Tuesday night. So taking some of this Irish influence stuff up there. And then that same Thursday, the last Thursday in May, playing the Fox and Crow in Jersey City, right down the street from where I used to live. Am I playing in St. Louis? We don't have any St. Louis dates, but we will. Got together with a gentleman who's becoming a real interesting and seems like a good friend. He's from Duval County in Jacksonville, but he lives here in St. Louis, and never knew him before I moved here. And my friend J.J. Gray introduced us. Tom Ray, who owns Vintage Vinyl, and he's a harmonica player. So I'm thinking about playing. Tom and I are gonna do some gigs out. Just kind of the two boys from Duval County. I don't know what we'll call ourselves, the Dude Vols or something like that or something. Got to come up with a catchy name for that. He says, you want to add a drummer and a bass player? I said, well, if they're from Duval County, sure, I'll do it. But anyway, I always loved that. You know, when I lived in Manhattan, I'd meet somebody from Jacksonville, my hometown, and, you know, we just kind of commiserate about our dealings and putting the templates of ourselves over a whole new place. Another thing that I'm so excited about, I've never done this ever in my years of buying and selling guitars, but I bought a guitar back. I had sold a guitar 7 years ago, and the other day I was redoing some tracks on Dana Kurtz's album, Postcards from Downtown, and I realized that guitar was the guitar I used, the guitar that I had sold 7 years ago. And I called the guy up, and lo and behold, he still had the guitar and was willing to sell it back to me. And he made me a great price. It's just the reason I bought it back is, first of all, I couldn't remember why in the heck I ever sold it to him. And it was one of those guitars that just kind of fit into a recording track just perfectly. I did all my early Swamp Cabbage records on it, and so I bought it back. So I'm gonna play that for you when I get that back. It's Walter Parks. I'd love to talk a little bit about music and guitars and sounds, and I'm reveling in the importance of kind of recording a guitar naturally again. I also run it through an amp, which I don't know if that was working properly. Bought this old Supro 1600 from Gary Smalley, 1606. Look it up online. It's a little 8-inch speaker thing. It's one of my favorite amplifiers, 1949 amp or 51 or something like that. And then I also just go direct with it. So if we have a good sound, it's not because of any of that. It's because Margot is running the soundboard, and she's getting so good at it. I love going to a concert now with Margot because she's finally just like me, as miserable as I am at most concerts, because she knows she can do a better job on the sound, and she knows exactly how to correct sound issues. So I think I've kind of ruined her in a certain sense, but I also, fortunately for me, she knows how to make something sound really good, and I don't know that I'll ever be able to travel without her again. So Margot Parks is my beloved wife. Listen, I'm going to sign off with I'm going to just, in the same way that I opened the book and we read from the book randomly, pages of import. Put down your books now, and let's just put the needle down randomly on a sermon. These are my favorite records these days. I just buy sermons. I don't even buy music anymore. Just just go out to your record store, and nobody will be. I mean, buy music. You guys can buy music, but I don't buy music. Did I urge people not to buy music? I said just buy sermons. Anyway. I'm gonna erase this show from the annals, but try it though. Just go to the record store. You won't have anybody competing for your space in the gospel section, specifically the sermon section. Nobody will be there. It's a wonderful way to shop. Okay, this is Reverend Cl Moore from Houston, Texas, 1967. Here we go, randomly.
Compromise was wrong. Yes, sir. Nor can he connive with evil in any of its forms. The thought of injustice is infinitely remote from him. Well, being perfectly just, he is just in all he does. The Bible therefore says, the Lord is righteous in all his ways. He himself says, judgment also will I lay to the line, and righteousness to the plummet. And Paul declares that God will judge the world in righteousness. A reference to the day of judgment suggests that on that day, the ways of God will be vindicated. And it will be clearly seen that in his government of the world and in the distributions of rewards and punishments of eternity, there has not been the slightest deviation